The flipper made its debut in 1987 on the German fair circuit. The flipper consists of a round plate with 12 free spinning gondolas on it. Each gondola fits 4 people, making the capacity 48 riders per cycle. The plate can lift up to 50 degrees and it can spin in both directions. HUSS produced around 20 flippers, with the last one leaving the factory in the late 90s. The flipper was and still is popular on European fairs, but also some parks like Portaventura in Spain and Heide Park in Germany bought a HUSS flipper. Sadly, the one at Portaventura is run extremely slow, almost to the point where there is no thrill at all, and the ride is pretty much useless. And the one at Heide Park has sadly been sold to Iraq now.
There are currently 3 HUSS flippers traveling in the US. HUSS later made a version of the flipper named the Crazy Pineapple. The Crazy Pineapple has 6 gondolas, and unlike the flipper, the gondolas are controlled by a motor, and the plate does not tilt, making it a more family-oriented ride. Only 3 of them are sold. Unlike the flipper, this ride was only available as a permanent version. The STEVIE is also somewhat similar to a flipper. The base of the ride can kind of be compared to that of a Trabant ride. However, unlike a Trabant, it does not lift. The plate has 10 gondolas on it, which were originally free spinning, but on later models were changed to being controlled by a motor.
And a big competition to the HUSS flipper was the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was manufactured by the British company ARM Rides and Italian company SDC. It does pretty much the same thing as a flipper, but it's smaller in size and the gondolas are flat on the plate, unlike on the flipper where they are slightly tilted. The Super Bowl was made in various sizes from 6 up to 11 gondolas. Most models were sold with 10 gondolas. Most of them were made in the early 90s when the HUSS flipper was also popular. There are still multiple ARM Super Bowls traveling in the UK and also one in the US, and there's also still SDC Super Bowls traveling in Europe.
In 1997, ARM made a version of the Super Bowl with rollover gondolas. Apparently the experience was very uncomfortable, so they changed the design of the gondola 2 years later. It now has floorless gondolas and remains the only ride of this type with these type of gondolas.
SDC also made a version of the Super Bowl where the whole structure rotates. At least 2 of them were built and none of them are known to be left operating. This ride was pretty much like a Trabant or Hully Gully ride, whatever you want to call it, but instead of the usual sideways facing gondolas, there was a Super Bowl plate.
And while flipper rides never really took off in the US like they did in Europe, the US does have a ride that is somewhat similar. Frank Hubert's company, known for their classic rides like the Paratrooper and Roundup, introduced the Tip Top sometime between 1939 and 1974. It's unclear the exact year that it was introduced. The ride consists of 8 to 12 independently spinning tubs that spin on a plate kind of like the much newer flipper. The whole plate is then popped into the air a few feet or about a meter using a blast of compressed air. The riders also have a plate in the ride vehicle that allows them to spin their car. This leads to a dizzying and airtime filled experience that is very well loved. These rides peaked in their popularity in the 1970s, and since then they have become harder and harder to find. Originally you could find them at almost every major park out there, as well as many fairgrounds. Today, some of the most well-known examples are the Tip Top at Stricker's Grove near Cincinnati, Ohio. This one is still in operation, however, due to that park's limited operation, you can only ride it a few specific days out of the year. Bates Bros of Ohio also has a traveling Tip Top. Being a Bates Bros ride, this ride is in fantastic shape. It travels to various Bates Bros shows, including the IX Indoor Amusement Park. I have seen it, but sadly I did not ride it. However, next time I get the chance to, I do plan on riding it because this ride is extremely rare, and it looks really fun. So now moving on to the ride experience of some of the larger rides.
So I have personally been on 3 HUSS flipper and 1 knockoff flipper, which was manufactured in Spain. The HUSS ones were all 3 really great. The forces on them they can be really insane. Like, I cracked my back on one of them. It was really insane. And just the lights on these things, they're just so beautiful. The design, Most of them have like really nice backdrops, which were hand painted back in the 90s. Really, really beautiful stuff. But sadly, there's also some that are not that beautiful anymore. But still, the ones we have traveling here in Europe, most of them are really beautiful. And the knockoff one, it was actually pretty good. Like, it had a very similar sensation as a HUSS one. It just didn't have that really insane force. But it was pretty comfortable to ride, and it was still a very fun and kind of intense ride. So flip rides, I really love them. You can give a great show with them. They look great, they are amazing to ride, and it can just be a really intense experience.
Alrighty, well that about rounds up everything we have to say about flipper rides. If you have any questions, comments, or things that we've missed, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching this episode of Flat Ride of the Week, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.